Today I'm going to take a look at two tables for my mobile DAWless setup. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. So right now I'm exploring how to put together a mobile DAWless setup. One of the things I'm going to need when I'm out playing is a table or something to rest my gear on, because traditional keyboard stands really don't cut the mustard for what we're trying to do here. I have lots of small pieces of gear and they need to be laid out on a flat surface. Now, a venue is only going to give you something like a banquet table or some other table standing around. It's probably going to be pretty low, too low for my purposes here. I'm going to have to hunch over, and that's rather uncomfortable when I'm using my gear. So I decided to order a couple of DJ tables and test them out to see which one might suit my purpose. The reason why I went with DJ equipment is, of course, they have the same issue. Their decks are flat, they're laying it on a surface. And so I thought I'd try these two things out. The two tables I ordered were the Quicklock DJ233 Performance DJ Workstation and the Portable DJ Table Stand by Accessibles. I'll show how they fit my gear, talk about some useful accessories that work with both of them, and then wrap up with a review of their specs, the pros and cons of each, and ultimately which one I decided to go with and why. Okay, so this is the Quicklock stand. It has a wider surface than the accessible stand, and so should allow me to put more gear on it. And I have 4 pieces of gear that I want to put on here, and we'll see how they fit. First in my chain is the SH4D. Here it is, so that goes on there. Gives me a nice bit of room. Next in my chain is the circuit tracks. Next in my chain is the circuit rhythm. And last in my chain is going to be the SP404 Mark II. So you can see that I got all 4 pieces of gear on the table, and they fit, but barely. So there's just, this room right here, this room right here. I will point out at this time too, there's another thing that's going on with this table, and this is common to anybody who's kind of received the table. Not anybody, but several people have received it in this condition where there's this bend right here in the tabletop. So I don't know if it's a shipping thing or a manufacturing thing, but when you look at the reviews, a lot of them mention this. So I can get all 4 devices on here, but things are kind of tight even for all these 4, but they can be put on here. The last piece of gear I like to couple with it is the Arturia, well, this is the key step. So you can move this gear back a little bit, give some space. And of course, I have another review for some stands that I use. So maybe I'll put these 2 units on stands and show you what that looks like. That's the SH4D and the SP404. So now I have the SH4D and the SP404 on these compact easel stands. And that allows me to position the gear a little differently and make better use of the how things are, of the table space, and how I'm going to spread things out on the table. But this gives me good access to the controls on the SH4D, or the pads on the circuit track, circuit rhythm, or the SP404, and of course access to the keyboard here. And it can fit all of that, so that's pretty good. It fits a lot of stuff. And I can even get like a laptop stand and put that up here. So there's other ways to kind of expand that. You get a little bit nervous about, things getting too tall and being out and about, and especially if you have to leave your table somewhere and somebody might bump it. That makes me a little bit nervous, but that's another issue. So yeah, it's a wide table surface. It's solid, steady, doesn't have a lot of wiggle, some, but not a lot. And pretty good overall. And it also has this space here for cable routing. And yeah, so this is a solid tabletop for a mobile DAWless setup. So this is the accessible table, and it's a bit smaller than the Quicklock table is. It's lighter though, and it's quicker to set up. And so I'll see how much gear I can fit on this particular table. I'll start with the SH4D. Then I'll add the circuit tracks. And that's about it. That's about all I can fit on here. There's limited room on the table. I recently went out and gigged with it, and instead of taking the circuit tracks, I took the SP404. So both of these units fit rather comfortably on the table. I was also able to add the Arturia key step. Now again, I'll add some stands to these to kind of help me elevate the two units on the table. So the stands here, these get right in my face. This is a really good height. I did the gig, it was comfortable. It's not bad, it just can't fit as much stuff as the bigger table. Adding a laptop stand like this does allow me to add the circuit tracks or the circuit rhythm to the mix. And I could get another one of these, and maybe I can suspend the circuit rhythm above the SP404, and that would allow me to get all 4 units on this table. However, things are tight. You don't want to really move this with these units, at least these laptop units on there, or sorry, laptop, but the laptop stands on there, or with the circuit tracks on the laptop stands, unless maybe perhaps you lowered them. So if you lowered them like this, you could probably move them a little bit better. I'd still take the circuit tracks off. But another solution would be to get a second accessible table. Now I've added a couple of other accessories to the setup that make it work a little bit better for me. Even though my setup is DAWless and battery operated, still I like to test out the setup before I go out and perform, and that takes a longer time. You can run the batteries down. So I have this attachable power strip, and this just clamps onto the side of the table. Bring it up here, or maybe back here. That's how I did it the other night, and just clamp this on. Actually, no, I didn't use it the other night. I went totally battery operated. But you can clamp it right here or anywhere along the side of the table, and it will work nicely. You can just plug it into a power source so you can power your devices. It also has 2 USB-C and 2 USB-A power points on it, in addition to the 4 typical wall plugs. The other piece of hardware that I added was this headphone holder. And also, it just clamps onto the side, like this. I pull this out, and I can hang my headphones during the set. Now the quick lock stand takes 2 people to move it, especially if you have gear on top of it, like you've kind of preloaded your gear, backlined it, and you need to bring it out when your set comes up and when you're doing a gig and sharing the stage with other musicians. But the accessible stand, even with gear on it, is really easy to pick up and move by yourself. So let's talk about the 2 tables and compare their specifications. The quick lock table has 4 different fixed heights. They're 25.2 inches, 29.5 inches, 33.8 inches, and 38.2 inches. Whereas the accessibles table has kind of a varying height between about 30.25 inches and 37.5 inches. Now, in terms of the area, the quick lock table has 39.37 inches by 19.3 inches. It's pretty large. The accessibles has 27.5 inches by 60 inches, so quite a bit smaller than the quick lock table. Now, in terms of their weight, the quick lock is definitely the heavier of the 2, weighing in at 27.7 pounds, and the accessibles is much lighter by comparison, only 10 pounds. Another important specification to look at is their folded dimensions, like how small they fold up to, so you see how portable they are. The quick lock table folds up to 39.4 inches by 25 inches by 3.9 inches. And I couldn't quite get the specs on the accessible table, but I know it fits in a bag that can take gear that's about 39.38 inches by 20.38 inches by 3.75 inches. The last spec to talk about is their weight capacity, what kind of a weight load they can take. And they're actually rather comparable. The bigger one, the quick lock stand, can take up to 200 pounds. The smaller one, the accessibles, can take up to 180 pounds. So some pros for the quick lock stand. If you're super tall or have lots of gear and don't mind hauling a larger, heavier table around with you, the quick lock stand gives you more surface space to work with and is quite stable once you put it in place. It should also work quite well if you plan to just keep it permanently set up in your studio. It also offers the lowest and the highest levels of the two tables. There's some cons with the quick lock table. It's large, heavy, and kind of awkwardly shaped, especially when folded up. The tabletop is quite easily bent due to how thin the tabletop is and how heavy the supports are, especially when folded up. And if you're leaning against something, the weight or the pressure put on by the supports can actually cause the table to bend a little bit. Another difficulty with the quick lock stand is it's difficult for one person to adjust the height by themselves. It takes a bit of doing. They have one of those little clicking, like locking pins that kind of where you can adjust. You've seen this on a lot of tables and stuff like that, where you just press in the pin and you pull it up and it locks in place. And so if you want to go like 2 levels up, you have to do that for each side, and they're pretty well spread out. So unless you have a really good reach, and you have to really plant your feet on either side of the table to help hold it down while you lift up on it. So it really is either a slow one-person job or a two-person job. Also, the table is so wide, it's difficult to move it, especially if there's gear on it. That's another two-person job. So it's great if you have a buddy with you or somebody at the venue that can help you. If you're doing things by yourself, it's not as friendly. So the accessible table, pros and cons. Some pros about the accessible table. It's light, it's small, and can easily fit in the trunk of a car, and it's really easy for one person to move and set up, even if it has gear on it. Its height is easily adjustable. The X-stand can also be used for a keyboard or a mixer or a DJ controller. It's also compatible with the Gator X-stand add-on bag. So you can actually fit it in that bag and then take it with you so you don't have loose parts, because the tabletop does separate, or is really just separated from the keyboard stand. You got those two components. So to fit that in one bag and just have it all at one go, not have it, bouncing around your car when you're traveling, is awesome. There's some cons about the accessible table. It only can fit about 2 to 4 pieces of gear depending on the size of gear that you're using. And the stand also suffers from the slight instability that X stands normally get. If you've ever owned a keyboard X stand, you know that they don't accommodate a lot of anything that isn't really just kind of like straight flat ground or a flat surface. Its height adjustability is kind of limited by the width of the table that you place on top, and also by the 2 metal supports that are inside there. So you can bring that stand up to a certain point, then you have to jump and bring it to the inside. And of course you can't go full on up. So it's more limited than the than the quick lock stand. So let's talk about which one I chose. I was looking for a table to do smaller gigs, things where I would be playing maybe 10 to 20 minutes. I might have to backline my gear. I'm sharing the stage with other musicians throughout the evening. And basically kind of like almost like a singer-songwriter or something like that. Maybe even fit in a small place, like a small corner of a cafe or something like that, like a singer-songwriter would. So for me, the accessibles table is the right fit. I can throw it in my car, it's light, it's portable, it's easily set up, and it can fit a small amount of gear, which forces me to be a little more minimalist in how I set up my set or how I prepare for my set. Just choosing a couple pieces of gear and figuring out how to maximize their sound. And then when I want to play a bigger show, I can just get a bigger table for the event. Of course, another option I've discussed earlier is that I could use 2 tables. So they're rather inexpensive. For the price of 2 tables, it's almost the price of, in fact, just a little bit more than the price of the quick lock table. So that's my review and comparison of the Quick Lock Performance DJ Workstation and the Portable DJ Table Stand by Accessibles. Please let me know which one you think might be a good fit for you and your needs in the comment section. Thank you for watching. See you next time.